University was actually mandated to work in the social science and humanities. So we were looking at possibilities of reinventing social sciences and look at particularly those areas which had applications, which was applied in nature, not the core social sciences alone, which are applied in nature as well as which had interdisciplinary content. So our idea was not to really identify certain critical areas and then develop and look for people. At that point in time when the university was being set up, we were looking around for people, and whoever was actually promising and had already had a certain credentials established in a particular area, we tried and took that person in and then built a program around it. So the establishment of the university almost coincided with Professor Vinitha Kaul's retirement from the World Bank, and then we thought that it's an opportunity for us to sort of get a person with her kind of credentials and her kinds of long experience and very high credibility in the field of early childhood education development. And in any case, early childhood education development was one of those areas which we had thought of emphasizing. So this was a fortuitous set of circumstances which enabled us to bring her in and enable the creation of, or facilitate the creation of a center for early childhood education development. That's how it happened. So it was part of our strategy of identifying a competent and eminent and promising, either already eminent or who is promising to be eminent kind of a person, and then build a program around that person. That's the way in which we did it. So Professor Kaul's coming in was in that sense part of that larger strategy of institution building. That's the way we did it. We had actually created a whole statute in the university through which centers could be established. We conceptualized centers as not as departments within schools. The conceptualization of our schools was like an indivisible composite space which could not be divided into departments. So that space, schools were essentially the academic homes of our programs, our teaching programs, BA, Honours, MA, MPhil, PhD programs. And unlike in the case of the Jawaharlal Nehru University, where centers are like departments within the school, here we conceptualize centers as areas of knowledge, as representing areas of knowledge or practice, professional practice, which needed certain kind of special attention which normally was not available through academic programs. Particularly in training, in policy research, in
impact evaluations.
Beg your pardon?
Impact evaluation.
Well, as part of policy research, there are project research, let's put it that way. Impact evaluation is only one part of that. I mean, project research as a large role. For instance, this entire longitudinal study with CECD is one of them. Which is not just the impact of a government scheme alone. I mean, that's a very narrow way of looking at it, in my opinion. I think it is basically a composite applied research which is happening with a very broad field base. So I'm coming back to the point. The centers were conceptualized as areas, as entities which represented an area of knowledge which is emerging at a certain point in time. And unlike core social sciences like economics or sociology or literature or whatever, which had a certain stability over time, these areas around which a center was established was supposed to be of contemporary importance. So the centers were established for finite periods of time, so long as that area is of contemporary importance. So that's why we created centers like Center for Early Childhood Education Development, Center for Community Knowledge, Center for Psychotherapy and Clinical Research, Center for Development Practice, and so on. And these were essentially to be populated by faculty members who were to be seconded from the schools there, or who are project staff, who are essentially hired for finite time frames within projects which are created within the center, or undertaken within the center. The center's activities were somewhat different from the schools. Schools concentrate on academic programs, where centers concentrated on project research, large project research, which included impact assessment, as you were saying. It included training in a big way, and
even capacity building we are doing.
Training, which is capacity building, also is training, no? Training and advocacy, policy research, networking, clearinghouse functions. These were the kinds of things which we thought should be attempted by the centers. And CECD was in that sense a very prototypical kind of an area in which I think there's already some antecedents had been created through Professor Kaul's and her colleagues' work. In the initial years, Dr. Adarsh Sharma was also part of the Center for Early Childhood Education Development. Together they had already established, and many others like them, had together as a community established a certain research tradition in the area of early childhood care and education. And we wanted to really create a platform for the continuance and sustainability of continuing and sustaining such effort which are already on. So that is what CECD we thought would stand for. Over the years, we find that we were looking back. I feel that the CECD has been successful in much of what it undertook to do, and I would give the lion's share of the credit to Professor Kaul's leadership, Professor Kaul's credibility in the field, and her enormous contacts and professional linkages that she bring into the university through her many years of work in this area. And I really feel that CECD has shown us the university, a certain how do you put it, a certain way forward of creating critical bridges between academic areas where teaching and research, academic research happens, and applied research, field level interventions, evaluation, program evaluations, capacity building or training in a big way, and more important, being create a body of knowledge which can easily be translated into a critique and suggestions for policy formulation. So the research briefs, the policy briefs which CECD has brought out, in my opinion, is I keep showing that as a exemplar of what a university can do in terms of its the feedback, the cybernetic feedback that the university needs to provide to the state and other kinds of players, actors who initiate large interventions programs like ICDS, for instance. So it's important for an entity like AUD, through one of its units called CECD, to be able to give this kind of a credible feedback to state and other agencies. So to that extent, in my opinion, CECD has really, in my opinion, surpassed the expectations we had of a center. So it in a way created a new benchmark of what a center can do. And I think the kind of, in the past 5 years, the kind of foundation that CECD has laid is going to be further deepened and sustained. And I'm happy to see that there is a reverse flow happening now from CECD's interventions and project research and so on, is now flowing in an academic program of a master's and a diploma program in early childhood care and education, which the School of Education is now providing a platform for running this program. So I think that is the kind of critical linkage which we want to create between a school and a center. So to that extent, I think CECD I would consider as one of the major success stories within AUT. There is a risk that we run of doing a whole lot of disparate activities, large projects, small projects, funded by various agencies, international, national. In the process, there is a risk that we run, that we are not able to consolidate the entire thing and generate something tangible in terms of knowledge, stable knowledge out of it. After all, university is in the business of creating knowledge. So we are in that sense not a service provider to the state alone. I mean, that's a part of a function, but that's not the major function. The major function is the creation of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge. So all these activities which CECD is doing, that it is translating itself into academic programs like masters and diploma program in early childhood care and education is fine, great. And because authentic, the knowledge that will be transacted through these programs will have greater authenticity because of CECD's field interventions and large projects and policy research and so on and so forth. So there's no question about it. I have no doubt in my mind about it. But it's also time for us to dig a little deeper in this area and be able to come out with much more stabler theoretical and other understanding of childhood, children in general, from various perspectives, not merely from the perspective of education and development psychology, but also from anthropology and law and economics and so on and so forth, even history and so on. So we need to really have a focus on childhood. So I would hope that CECD would now begin to consolidate and deepen its involvement in these large mini projects and be able to distill out from these efforts some essence which would give us deeper insights into children and childhood in this part of the world, in this culture. So I think that I would hope would be the next major milestone that CECD would attempt to cross. I have no doubt in my mind that I think the manner in which the team building has happened within CECD under the leadership of Professor Vinita Kaur has been a remarkable phenomenon. There's no question about it. Because in spite of the fact that the staff structure of CECD essentially has been supported by discrete project funding, but it appeared as though there was a seamlessness in the way in which CECD as an institution has really taken shape. So that continuity and stability is essentially could be attributed to the leadership of protocol, and as well as the teamwork of everybody that is who has participated in it in the initial years as well as now. Some of them are not here now. Some of them worked in the initial couple of years and then went to other places, but some of them continue, and some of them have joined in recent years. But overall, I really feel that CECDs is a team with enormous cohesiveness, and it's in some sense a very important lesson to learn for other centers and institutions within the university and outside. I would certainly congratulate, I'm very happy, I would congratulate the CECD team and protocol for this enormously significant achievement that they have accomplished in the past 5 years. And I'm sure, I have no doubt in my mind that CECD has a long way to go. It's going to be, it has already acquired the stature of the major resource institution in the early childhood care and education, in spite of the fact that there are centrally funded major institutions in this area already existing. I would tend to think that the contribution of CECD in these past 5 years surpasses, although it's me who is saying this, but I am actually an insider outsider, and so there's a certain amount of objectivity I can say. And I also reflect the comments which I often hear from other sources outside the university about CECD's functioning. And from there, I have no doubt in my mind to conclude that their contribution has been equal, if not more, than the contributions of major national institutions in the area.